And now for something completely different. Some stories in the Bible are just strange. Balaam's donkey speaks. People survive being thrown into a fiery furnace. Jonah is swallowed by a fish. The book of Acts has more than its fair share of strange occurrences as well. Peter and Paul miraculously escape prison. People are healed by Peter's shadow just passing over them and by handkerchiefs Paul touched. And a young man falls 3 stories to his death and is miraculously brought back to life. What's going on here? Let's think a little bit about some of these miracles. First, in all these stories, God is God. If God wants to bring fire from heaven and burn water-soaked offerings, if he wants to make axe heads float, if he wants to raise Lazarus from the dead or bring Eutychus in today's story back from the dead, he's free to do that. After all, God is God. He's the one who created the universe and all that is in it, or, depending on your physics, the multiverse and all that is in all of these multiple universes. He's the one who designed all the natural laws, and if he chooses now and then to step outside those natural laws and do something miraculous, then God has the power and the authority and the ability to do that. Can God still do miracles? Absolutely. In 2021, God can still do whatever he wants to do. Second, God is a God of surprises. Sometimes God does things we would never expect. Who would imagine he would give Moses a staff that turned into a snake? As an ophidiophobe, someone who's afraid of snakes, that would have been my worst nightmare. Who would imagine that Peter would find a coin in a fish's mouth? Who would think that God would care about a slave boy who fell asleep during a church service? Can God still surprise us in 2021? Absolutely. I have been phenomenally surprised by how God has helped us through the past 16 plus months of COVID. People have adapted to new technology and learned new skills. We've seen musicians blossom, families making videos together, all sorts of creativity emerging. Just when we think we have God figured out, he does surprise us. Third, God is still a God of mystery. Sometimes we don't understand God and what he's doing. When Jesus is arrested, when he faces unfair trials, when he's brutally beaten and then crucified, why doesn't God intervene? When Stephen is dragged before the Sanhedrin, when liars falsely accuse him, when religious leaders stone him, why doesn't God step in? James is in prison and he's executed. Immediately after that, Peter is in prison and God miraculously releases him. Why one? Why not the other? Throughout the 30 plus years that is covered by the book of Acts, many faithful people die. But 2, Tabitha and Eutychus, are raised to life. Why them? Why not everyone else? Some of the most godly people I know, who most deserve to be blessed by God, have some of the most difficult lives. They wrestle with chronic illness. They deal with lots of misfortunes. Things just don't work out for them very well. Some have died far too young. Meanwhile, some despicable wretches seem to live charmed lives. Everything just works out. They seem to just go on, and everything is perfect for them. And frankly, they just don't deserve it. Why is that? If I were God, whenever anyone is unjustly imprisoned, whether their name is James or Peter, I would release them. When anyone is seriously ill, I would heal them. But God doesn't do that. Why does God miraculously deliver Peter but not James? Why does he raise Eutychus and not all those other people of faith who died during the course of the book of Acts? We have no idea. God is God. There's a lot of mystery that we just have to live with. We just have to accept the fact that God is all-wise, all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-present, and we are not all-wise, all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-present. At a trivial level, if you were to print off all the articles on Wikipedia, it would generate 1,000 volumes, 1,200 pages each, and take about 80 meters of shelf space. More than 1 million pages in all. I don't know about you, but I only know a tiny fraction of all of that knowledge. Think about this. God knows it all and so much more. The fact that I can't comprehend what God is doing is hardly surprising. But I can trust him. I can trust him that he knows what he's doing, that he knows why he's doing it, and that ultimately all things are in his hands.